Hey guys, stay patient here. One of the things I've always liked the idea of doing is some kind of gaming podcast or general game chat video series, along the lines of IGN's Game Scoop or GameSpot's The Lobby. I love talking about games. It's a subject I've built up a lot of knowledge and experience with over the last 25 years of my gaming career, I guess, and I enjoy sharing that with others while also hearing their take on the industry. But of course, without an existing large viewer base, it's a very difficult sector to break into. So what I thought I'd do is upload one of my random end-of-stream chats with a viewer I was playing with at the time, just to gauge people's interest in this type of thing, really. On this occasion I was with Vasto Lord Koga, one of my subscribers and donators on the channel. Quite often I'll be about to draw a gaming session to a close, but just end up chatting away about a whole variety of different gaming subjects with whoever's left in the chat, if a subject comes up that they seem keen on discussing, of course. And sometimes it ends up being quite an interesting conversation. So for me to get an idea as to whether people may enjoy listening to me ramble on, I figured why not see how people respond to an impromptu exchange of ideas such as this one. Remember, this wasn't planned or anything, we didn't set up the sound for it to be uploaded later or put any thought into what subjects we'd cover, so bear that in mind and go easy with your feedback. But hopefully you can at least hear what we're saying, so please let me know if you think a regular gaming chat type show or podcast or whatever, if done correctly, would be something you'd be interested in tuning in for. So thanks guys, and I hope you find it interesting.
Well, Minesweeper.
Congratulations again.
Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks for your guys' help on the way. It was fun, and thanks for all the sessions and that. I'll still play occasionally, but not as often, I don't think.
I'll still see you around.
Oh, definitely, man. Yeah.
Videos on YouTube.
Yeah, man. We'll
Don't
do
get
next.
too caught up in work.
Nah. Next game that's out. Next big online game that's out. Because what have we got this year? Titanfall. That's another big one. Got Titanfall 2 this year, and that's really good.
Is that on PS4 now?
Yeah. It's cross-platform now.
For Xbox and PS4?
Yeah. So the first one was just Xbox, but obviously I think they did that because it was like their first game as a studio, so they thought, right, let's get some money up front so that we don't like totally bomb and fail, and go bankrupt. So we'll sell it to Xbox so that we get some money, and then that can fund us to keep the development going. And then they put the game out and they made good money off it, and now they've got enough money to be able to afford to just not have an exclusivity deal.
True. And Titanfall only got as much crap though because it was the first, I think, online game like that. Because Evolve, I think, came after Titanfall.
Yeah, it's the first like one without a single player. Not the first, but like, yeah, no story. And the thing was, people didn't mind it being online only, but there wasn't many maps or game modes or anything like that. There wasn't much depth to it at all. Like the unlocks, there wasn't much you could unlock or work towards.
So kind of like Overwatch. Cough, cough.
Well, no, I think this hasn't got a huge amount of maps and stuff, but character-wise, they're really varied. Whereas on Titanfall, you had 3 different Titans, but they're just different sizes with different health and speed. Like, there's not really much in it. And then the actual person you play as was no different. Like, everyone played as the same human. So it was a lot more limited than Overwatch. Because the variety in this comes in the playstyles of the different characters, doesn't it? But it's really good. I've got the first Titanfall on Xbox, and I did play it, like not a huge amount, but I played it enough to really enjoy it. I just don't ever turn the Xbox on. But it's really fun, like really, really well. Like the mechanics and the feel of it is great. A bit like Overwatch, like it feels perfect. The handling in that and the engine is really spot on. So I think a sequel, now that they've learnt from what they've, like from the first game, and now they've got a bit more money behind them and everything. I mean, it's run by Vince Zampella, and he's the guy that did CoD 4 and Modern Warfare 2, like the 2 best Call of Duties in my opinion. And he's the one that basically turned Call of Duty into what it is today with the first Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4. Like before that, it had kind of online stuff, but it wasn't really an online game. But now it's like.
But Call of Duty did steal from him with their future installments. I forgot which one they started with the wall running and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean that was all like if they'd kept hold of him, because they fired him. They were like, there was a big court case about it, like a huge court case between him, because I think it was because he'd spoken to EA about making a game, and Activision were like salty about the fact that he was supposed to be working for just them or something like that. and he'd obviously made the Call of Duties. He was the Infinity War guy, did the first 2 Modern Warfares, and they were by far the best. And then he got fired, and basically they carried on the series with everything that he built. Like it was totally,
Nice.
well, it was everything that he'd done. It was like they had no input to it really. It was his studio, and I think he took a lot of his people with him, and they made Respawn Entertainment, which are the people who make Titanfall. So now the reason Call of Duty is popular now is because of someone that doesn't work there anymore, and that someone is now working somewhere else making games that are better than Call of Duty. So it's all down to him. Like he's a genius when it comes to that stuff.
You just totally schooled me on something new.
Well, it's, yeah, Vince Zampella, man. It was him and one other guy. They because they started Infinity Ward, and then Activision, I think, basically bought them or kind of funded them as like they started off as a smaller studio. I think they weren't an Activision studio; they just worked for Activision. And it was quite mean. They basically took everything that he'd created, and they haven't changed anything. Everyone says, "Oh, they haven't changed Call of Duty for years," and that's because he had it perfect. But I think that's why Titanfall could smash Call of Duty this year. I hope it does, because there's a lot more imagination going into Titanfall.
I've never been a Call of Duty person. I've always been like Battlefield, more open, like the quick, fast pace. Even like something like this with Overwatch, even though it's fast, I like to have huge maps with different type of varieties of vehicles and weapons and stuff like that.
I like that. I do prefer. I think it was just when I was a teenager, I quite liked a couple of the Call of Duties. Maybe because I worked with people who played it, so it was like a competitive thing, like trying to get to the top prestige quickest and that kind of stuff. But Battlefield's a better game, definitely a better series. I agree with you there. That new Battlefield 1 looks pretty cool.
I was thinking about getting it, but just I find as like you said, as I get older, it's not that I'm like that old. I'm only 23, but as I get older, the quick reactions, like you were talking about, and the controller response is just going down the more that I do with other stuff.
Yeah, you kind of like I'm more geared towards games that require sort of head knowledge and understanding and stuff. You know, like RPGs or like I quite enjoyed Defense Grid 2. That was really good fun, like a tower defense game. It's only like an online downloadable title. It's quite cheap in that. Ended up being really, really good. And it's all about, you know, it sort of tasks your mind rather than just your. Because what do they call it? They call it like reaction gaming or reflex gaming or something.
Yeah, kind of like quick time events and stuff like that.
Well, no, like you know what I mean, like first person shooters and stuff. They call it like reflex. I think reflex gaming or something. It's all about just responding to something quickly with your hands rather than your head.
Even with like stuff like this, like shooters and I don't want to even say like somewhat kind of like Uncharted. You have to have like what is it? The sensitivity. You have to have like the sensitivity high. You have to have the reflex for it. And you just have to like your eyes have to stay focused and sharp and always constantly moving. So
not falling asleep like an old man does half the time in the afternoon in front of the telly.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I know what you mean. But I'm looking forward to No Man's Sky. I don't know if it's going to be as
good a game. Did they push it back, or is it still on the 8th?
I think so, yeah. What's that, in like a week or so's time? A week and a half's time or something?
Let me check.
We probably get it like a day after you guys, to be honest. We get screwed over in the UK.
What? I thought it all released the same.
Some of them, yeah. Some of them come out earlier, and I think Ratchet and Clank had been out for a week or like 10 days in the US before it came out here, because I was excited to stream it, and I had it being delivered on day one. And then I was like, oh, okay, everyone's already streamed it. Like, I get screwed over because I live in the UK. I get it like 10 days later and everyone's already watched it.
Kind of sucks. And it's on the 9th. It releases on the 9th.
I think that, yeah, because originally they were going to do it a day or so later in Europe, but now I think they've changed it they adjusted it so it's a worldwide release same day, which is pretty cool. I'm not letting my expectations get too high for it because you know what it's like when you're so hyped for a game. Thanks, by the way, a Drive fan. Drive fan says congrats on the well done on the plat. Yeah, when your hype is so high for a game, when it comes out, like there's no way it can live up to it. So if you're expecting a game to be like the best game ever, and it's still really good, but it's not up to where you thought it was going to be, it actually feels crap because it's like a kind of reference thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of like I got the best tasting cake, and you guys are gonna so love it. I mean, there's no cake like it. And then when
yeah,
you eat it, you're kind of like, oh, my mom kind of makes the same cake like this.
yeah. Or like even if it's amazing, but you've had a better cake before, in your mouth, like because you're expecting something amazing, it's like it tastes almost crap. It's not crap, you know it's not crap, but in your head, that's how
Yeah,
you see it. So like
yeah.
with games, like it's like with Destiny. Like
Ooh,
Destiny's
ooh.
Destiny's a good game. I was really hyped for Destiny. I don't know how you feel about it. You can tell me in a minute. From your voice, I
Um,
can't tell. Do you love it or hate
yeah,
it?
I remember we talked about this. I don't
Oh,
like
do we?
it. Just how they screwed over. I don't think
Yeah,
it's not the game that was bad. I think that it was just the team that was
yeah,
surrounding the game that I felt were bad because they listened somewhat to the community, but they were kind of more in it as the Activision side with transactions and stuff like that.
yeah. See, I'm the same. Like when they were building up to that game, it looked amazing. It looked like they had the tower and stuff, or they didn't show the tower. I can't remember. Anyway, I saw like clips of them kind of heading out together as a group of four, and in my head, it was like a fully open world, like a proper MMO, and you had like this hub where you could meet up, but you literally walk out of the hub into the open world. And when they showed like
True.
Earth, they showed the clip where right at the start of the game he comes down, he lands, he sees the ghost, and the guy literally says, it's on, you can watch it like on YouTube or something. He says, "See all that horizon there? You can go anywhere that you can see." And
I
everyone's like,
remember that.
"Wow," because everyone thought, right, we've got a bunch of planets, because it looked as though you could fly from planet to planet, a bit like No Man's Sky. And they were like, you can go anywhere that you can see, and it was like, wow, you've literally got like these entire planets that you can go around. Again, like No Man's Sky, you can kind of walk around them. They're huge open areas. You can get in your ship and fly to another one, and it looked amazing. And then it came out, and it's basically like these closed-in levels that you do missions, like repetitive missions in, and it's very much a structured game, and there's not open world at all, really. And even
And they
though
really did beat
they
the
screwed it,
repetition in that game.
yeah, and it kind of it was too limited, but like a lot of people love it, and I understand. Like it is a good game for what it's trying to be. It's trying to be a PvP game where you build up your skill in PvP by doing challenges in co-op and single player, right? It's not like an open
Hmm.
world story based game. It's a game where you've got all these missions and you can do them, you can farm them, and you can build up your gear and get better gear and increase like level it up and stuff, and then you can go into PvP and show off like the skill that you've got and the gear that you've got and everything. That's what it is. It's like it's a game. That's what it's built for. They just marketed it incorrectly to the point where because I had certain expectations for it, I ended up thinking it was crap. But it's not crap. Like for what it's trying to be, it's actually pretty good. Like I still quite enjoyed my time with it if I'm honest with myself. It's
I
got good
did
handling
too.
and that.
And I
Yeah.
would say one of the best things that I think it did that I've seen that no other game has come close for me personally is the way that the community was as far as like the players. Like
Yeah.
I had so many people from Destiny alone on my friends list that it
Yeah.
was just like ridiculous. And the fact that, I can just hop in with them, everybody from around the world into a raid and the communication and stuff like that. So the community
Mm.
was great, but I think just from the harp from everybody and then also from my dislikes about it, I just had to put it down and I had to step away from it because it's just like it's a good game with so like many bad things. It's kind of like a yin and a yang.
It's kind of frustrating because you know how much potential it's got because it handles so well. The actual shooting and the like abilities, all the mechanics of the way it plays is brilliant. but
Hmm.
what you actually do in the game is boring and repetitive a lot of the time. Some of it's fun, like the raids are fun, and it's one of those games that I'm actually looking forward to the next DLC. I'm quite happy. I'm thinking like, cool, I get to play it again. I'm curious to see like if it's actually interesting, if there's anything good in it, and I'm looking forward to like reconnecting with some of my mates I used to raid with, all that kind of stuff. But you know what I mean? Like it's a perception thing, like you said with the
Yeah.
cake. Like if you're told, if you think something's going to be the best thing ever, and then it's not the best thing ever, but it's still good. In your mind, it's actually worse. It feels worse than it is because it's like a step down from your expectations. So I'm kind of I'm not like letting my hype get too high for No Man's Sky, because I can see it being a very good game, but it's not going to be like, it's not going to be the best game ever made. I don't think it's got potential for that. What I do think it's got is the potential to change gaming, which I think we spoke about the other day. I think
Yeah.
it can change the face of gaming forever because
But
of the way it
that's what
calculates.
that's what makes one of the games like the greatest of all time, because all games that
Mm,
transcend time has done something to push the culture forward.
yeah.
Like your Mario's, your Zelda's, what else? Your
Final Fantasy.
Castlevania, yeah, Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
Mega
Um,
Man,
Metroid, Super Metroid, and
yeah. So all those games just did something that was just so iconic. Even Doom,
yeah,
if you want to like really take it back too, or and then Halo.
yeah. Even games like
But
even more recently, games like Uncharted at the time, I think the first couple, just the way it was so cinematic, but still gameplay without, didn't need cutscenes like PS2 and PS1. If they wanted to show a cinematic sequence, it was a cutscene. But then Uncharted, it was like you're actually playing what would normally be a cutscene.
true. Speaking of that, you reminded me what I feel is worse than Destiny, and what really let me down was the Order 1886. That was extremely marketed wrong, and I was so hyped for that game.
Really? You see,
But
there's two games this generation. There's been two games this generation. Pixelator says like Overwatch. Just kidding. No, there's been two games that I was like the whole world was going absolutely nuts for in the lead up, and I was never more than just remotely curious. Like I was never interested in them. I was going to play them, but I was never expecting them to be any more than mediocre. And I was
hmm
like fully vindicated because one of them was Watch Dogs. Like I wasn't disappointed. See,
Ooh,
this
yeah.
is the thing. I wasn't disappointed by Watch Dogs. And everyone, when I say that, people are like, "Oh, really? I thought it was rubbish." And I'm like, "No, it was rubbish, but I wasn't disappointed because I didn't have high expectations for it." And the same with, in fact, I was playing Evolve with a bunch of people. We were boosting Evolve. There's about 5 or 6 of us. About 2 or 3 weeks before the Order 1886 was coming out, right? And someone said what you were saying, like that they couldn't wait for it. They were so excited for it. And as soon as they said that, because we were talking about upcoming releases, as soon as they said that, I said, no, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be a 5 or 6 out of 10. I predicted straight away. I said it's gonna be like between 5 and 6 out of 10 from every review, just based on like clips of gameplay I'd seen. Because when you've gamed for
hmm
like 25 years, like I have, you get to recognize the signs of like whether a game's going to be good or not, because you kind of see games in development and then you see them when they're out and you kind of put two and two together. And I said to him, it's going to be
hmm
5 or 6 out. He was like, no, don't be stupid. It's going to be, even if it's rubbish, it will be like a 7 or 8. And I was like, no, it's clearly from what I'd seen. I said there is no way it's getting more than a 6 out of 10 from anyone. And it came out, and my friend texted me and said, "Oh, the Order 1886 reviews are out." And I looked on, it was like 5, 6, 6, 5, like exactly what I said all along. I just couldn't see it because it was just a corridor shooter. Like every time I saw it, it was like a closed in. It was like almost like playing Crash Bandicoot, you know? It was like just a single corridor just moving through with bland shooting mechanics, cover based shooting, and it just looked awful. Graphically, it
True.
was amazing. The graphics on it are absolutely unbeatable, but that was the only thing about it, I think.
True. I just thought it was gonna be like a London, Britain type steampunk Uncharted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
because of the way they marketed with the cutscenes from to gameplay, and just how they did that. And I just overhyped myself. But for Watch Dogs, I didn't overhype myself. I don't even think that
No.
it was like a bad game. I just think that was, it was like a regular, but from a tech perspective mainly.
Mm.
So I was like it's not bad. I mean, it's good. It's not anything new, but
Yeah.
it
That was
can
it.
definitely use some work.
It was generic. I think that's the
Yes, there
best
you go.
word to describe it. And I think the
Yeah.
problem with it, the problem, see, this is what happens. Like people overhype games. I think what developers need to do. Well, I don't know. It's difficult because it's like, as a developer, do you want to make a ton of money but have a bad reputation, or do you want to make pretty good money and have a great reputation, and then have the potential to make more money in the future because people want to buy your future games? Because Ubisoft are a key example.
Perfect example. Perfect example.
Yeah, all they do, right, is they overmarket games and they make them look like they're much more than they actually are. I gladly Lex says he's joining if he had a mic, but he hasn't. Yeah, so yeah, they make them out to be. So when they marketed Watch Dogs, the very first video. Do you remember it was like 2012 or 13? They showed it at E3 along with The Last of Us,
Yeah,
and
I
everyone
was
was
gonna say
like,
the only thing.
yeah,
Go
go on.
ahead. The only thing I remember the Watch Dogs mainly for I think what everybody points out is when they did um the E3 demo when he was going into the club and then it showed the
Yeah.
water on him and then all that, and I think that's when people started to discover, okay, well, they're having this game on ultra settings and in a different type of engine, and then when
Yeah.
they just bring it down, it's not even that they scaled it down on PS4, they also scaled it down on PC as well.
Yeah, it didn't look anything like how it did originally. But even like, I'm not too fussed about graphics so much. It's just they made it look like there was so much freedom, and he was like, he was using, his electronic device to check people, and then he was kind of, I mean, you can do all that in the game, but it made it look like it was so much freer than it actually ended up being. Because in the game, it's very much, it's just structured, isn't it? It's like, sure, you can like turn traffic lights red, but that's about the only thing that you're free to do whenever you want. The rest is like, oh, as part of the story, you need to hack that camera and then use that one to hack that one and then that one. It's just like,
True.
look around
And
for a camera.
another example of how they changed their gaming mechanics as well, from what you see at their demos is, I don't know if you ever played it, but The Division, how they marketed The Division for things that you can do in the game to when you actually have it versus, like what you can
Yeah.
actually do. It's just completely different as well. Ubisoft has lost, I feel, all connection to its audience.
It's become a corporation that's out there to. Yeah, I agree
Compete
with
with
you.
Activision.
Pixelator says gameplay over graphics. Absolutely. Yeah, they're up there. I mean, they're probably potentially the biggest studio in the world. The biggest publisher in the world. But even when you watch their E3 shows, it's so corporate. They use all these like business terms or these like phrases that just try and build hype. And they've got like Alicia Tyler, who I'm sure is a gamer, but she's very businesslike about it, and it's kind of it feels forced. But then
Yes.
when you see someone like what's his name? The No Man's Sky guy, Murray, Sean Murray. Sean Murray will come on stage at E3 and he looks so nervous and he looks so like almost like he doesn't want to be there. Not in a
Authentic.
bad way. Yeah, but he looks like someone said, look, you have to go on stage and tell us about the game, and he's like, oh, I'm really nervous, I don't want to do it, and he kind of pushes himself to go out there, and he's not bigging up his game, he's just literally stating the facts, and he's like, he's so humble about it, and he doesn't oversell the game at all. He didn't even say, like, he never came out and said, guess what, our game's got 18 quintillion planets. Like, he'll mention if someone asks him, like, literally, he needs to be asked. Someone will be like, so how many planets are in it? And he'd be like, yeah, it's like 18 quintillion or something. He says it, like, under his breath as if he doesn't really want to. It's like he doesn't want to boast, you know. But people like that,
No, I don't.
they grab my attention more than Ubisoft because I think, well, he loves gaming and he's making the best game he can. He's not in it for the money, he's in it for the gaming.
I also think too that a lot of days or nowadays like a lot of gamers can be, how can I put it?
Easily swayed.
Not easy swayed, but very harsh. There you go. They can be
Oh, I
very
see.
harsh because a lot of people hold, on just pretty much internet wise, a lot of people hold a lot of game developers to the fire when it comes to things that they said that, that was in the game, what they can do, what type of specs it has. And if it doesn't have like one little thing, then they will just completely destroy you and break you down. And, people just think it as, okay, you should be able to take criticism. But with the amount that would just come in daily that you would have to see from something that you worked years on, that can be kind of devastating to, go through.
Yeah, I do feel sorry. I do feel sorry for the people who put a lot of work in and they get trashed. But to be fair, like we said before, it's either make a ton of money by marketing a game that was actually probably quite cheap to make because you're reusing assets and stuff. So like Assassin's Creed, for instance, they for years they pretty much reused what they already had. The controls and everything was all the same, like the same engine and that. So it's probably quite cheap to make, but they marketed the hell out of it so that they can make a ton of money, and that's a business move. And that kind of, I don't mind that because it keeps the gaming industry going. Like if every company was like No Man's Sky, the Hello Games and stuff, then it would probably crash because there wouldn't be enough money in the industry. But
I don't think that. I think a lot of gamers have shown that even if it doesn't, like, one of the perfect examples for a game that wasn't heavily marketed is Dark Souls and Castlevania. The gaming community loved those games. It got a ton of push just from word of mouth, and they sold units comparable almost to, the big development companies, to where they were able to stand on their own merit. And now look, I mean, shit, Dark Souls game can't even come out without a community, kind of like, oh my gosh, it's another Dark Souls, whether it's good or bad, but it built its own reputation from gamers.
yeah, no, you're right there. I think it's difficult for new franchise and new IPs to get a hold. But I think when it comes to the money, I mean, I think like with a company like Ubisoft, I think they have to market it a lot because you look at how many copies they sold of Watch Dogs. Like it was insane. It was the biggest selling game. I think it may have been the biggest selling game in the first week ever at the time it came out, or something like that, or one of them. At least the biggest selling on this generation. And they kind of they needed it to be that because it was a new franchise, so they needed to. People didn't have anything to go on, and there's so much money. The thing is, like, games cost so much more to make now than they ever did, but they sell for cheaper than they used to. So the margin is like drastically less. You think going back to like the N64 or like back when they were cartridges,
Cartridges,
you had like games would obviously cost a huge amount less because there was no CGI, there was no like motion capture, there was no loads of the stuff that's in games. Those games were much smaller. It would be like 2D platformers. It mostly be kind of drawn on computers, very simple, and probably really cheap to make. But
I don't.
but they sold for loads of money. Like the cartridges were like 60-70 pounds over here, probably like up towards like $100 over there. But now games cost like 40 quid here, $60 in the US, but they cost literally hundreds of millions to make. So that, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think the gaming I hasn't, for as long as I can remember, I don't think the gaming price has actually changed. I think it still stays at $60, but I think the way now that they are trying to make their money is through the season pass with extra content,
Yeah.
and then that's why I think they're also trying to do more microtransactions because I feel like some companies are just too scared to actually push the game cost to a different price just from fear of not getting the money from the game.
Yeah, like no one until someone does it, then no one can do it. If that makes sense. So it's like a catch-22.
Yeah,
They need someone to
yeah.
take the first move. But I think maybe because you're younger than me, that might be it. But I do remember I do remember games now, you buy them new. Like, I never spend more than £40, like UK, British pounds, on a game. Usually I get them for like 35, 38 when they're brand new. I think the recommended retail price might be maybe 50, but you never see them for 50. Like 40 is the price. Like that's the average price for a brand new game from like a high street store, you know?
Whoa, let me move over there then.
Well, no, I mean it's pounds and dollars. There's like a different currency exchange, isn't there?
Currency, yeah.
But like, and the pound's like really weak at the moment, which means you probably would be richer over here if you moved here because your dollars are worth a lot more in pounds than they used to be. But anyway, they did used to be. They're 40 quid now, and I do remember a time when they were between 60 and 70 quid, at least half as much again, because it was like a huge deal to buy a new game on like N64 or something, or Sega Saturn or whatever. It's like, it was a huge deal. Buying a game is like something you'd have to save up for, you know, especially if it was a new one. It's literally like £70 quite a lot of the time. So definitely in my lifetime, it's gone down considerably, and now it's like a fairly universal price. Lex says in Sweden they're $75 each, and I don't know if that's US dollars or not really.
Wow.
He also says Star Wars Battlefront's another good mention for the 50% of the game is in the DLC for the same price as the main game. That's what we were saying, isn't it? Like, they have to make money through the DLC, because I think that's why they take... Like, people say, hang on, you've taken half the game out and you're charging me extra for it. But really, like what you said about how no company can really afford to say, look, our game's going to be like $80 because it's bigger. Everyone would be like, what? No, games are $60. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one could do that. So rather than do that, they might say, right, let's take some of the game out so that then we can charge people more for that later. That way, people are still paying $60 and everyone's getting the same thing, but we're technically charging more for the full game, which we wish we were able to do anyway, because otherwise we're not making enough money. So we're charging more by splitting it up, but people get the choice of whether to buy the extra. And to be honest, I don't mind that. Like, if they need to do that to keep in the profit and keep games coming, I don't mind. It's almost like with Kickstarters. It's like people gladly give more money than what the game's worth to help the Kickstarter make the game. And if it's like that with bigger companies, where we think of them as being these multi-million-dollar companies, which they are, but there's probably like a shoestring in it as to whether they kind of dip one way or the other, whether they're in the profit, or because you've read articles, haven't you, about like companies just losing millions and millions and millions of pounds in a quarter, like Sony or whatever. On PlayStation 3, there were some quarters they were losing like hundreds of millions of pounds. And it's
But
like they...
in comparison, I was gonna say in comparison to what they make like daily, like it's a hit within itself, but it's kind of like saying, you know, you can either take a hit from a 20-year-old athlete or you can take a hit from an 8-year-old kid. It's kind of like how I kind of like see it. So with those hundreds of millions, I feel like it's kind of like a hit from like an 8-year-old kid. Now, if they lost like billions in like a quarter, then that would be, you know, a big hit. But for the other stuff, at a console price of like 400, and let's say you move like, I don't know, even like 1,000, you're coming like close to like making back that profit.
Well, yeah, you think of it that way, but don't forget consoles. This generation is the first generation where they are making money on consoles. In the past, on PS3, 360, yeah, that's how it works. In the past, they've lost money on every console sold because of how much it costs to make. And the reason they do that is because obviously they need to be competitive. I think if there was only, say, Xbox or Sony, like Xbox or PlayStation stopped making consoles, the other one would rocket up in price, because the only reason they are the price they are is because of the competition. So in previous generations, they've literally lost money on every console sold, and the reason is because they need to get the consoles in people's homes so that those people are then prompted to buy software, which is where the money was made back. So although we think about, oh, they're selling all these like millions, like they've sold 40 million PS4s or whatever it is, and each one's £400 or $400 over there, and you add it up and you're like, wow, that's loads of money. But like how much have they actually made? How much of that is profit? Like very little. It's actually they made a big deal of it this generation, saying this is the first time we've got to the point where we're actually making a profit each time we sell a console, and it's not going to be much because they would sell it for as cheap as they possibly can. Because the more people that own the console, the more games they're going to sell, and the games, obviously, once the game's developed, all they need to do is print it on disc. So if they're making the games anyway, for the people who do own a PS4, they might as well print more of them and sell more games and make a ton more money. So they might as well have the consoles in people's houses, you know?
True. And I don't feel like the gaming community should even make a fuss when it comes to possibly raising the price of like games, or even when it comes to like multiple different variations of consoles that are soon to be coming out, because people really don't complain when it comes to other forms of media, and that's what pretty much a game is. It's kind of like replayable media, I guess, because it's not like like with a movie you can watch it again. With a game you can play it again, but you can play it in a different way. It has that option too. So with how diverse the games are, and then like you said, how much it is to make, I think people understand that, but it's just people just don't like change. So somebody does need to shake it up, because like I said, I wouldn't feel bad buying a game for $100 if I know that I'm getting literally everything that it has to offer, and that there's that replayability there.
Yeah. See, my perfect example of this I've used before is The Order 1886 versus The Witcher 3, right? So Witcher 3 lasts for like 100 odd hours or whatever. It's not like the biggest game in the world, but there was so much put into it. The graphics are amazing. Everything's amazing about it. And it's really long. It's got a ton of content. And I think the DLC was free. Some of it, at least.
No, the DLC was actually only $25 for the two big, huge
the big ones,
for it.
And I think there was 5. I remember them saying they were going to release 5 smaller ones that were all free, and then you pay for the big ones. But if you compare them side by side, right, when they first come out, both games are exactly the same price. You've got one that is pretty, but that's it. There's nothing going for the Order 1886. I remember actually there's one scene in it which sums it up for me. It's a scene where you'll remember, like, you know, when you parasail or like use like abseil down the side of the big Zephyr, or the, what do you call it, the big airship thing?
Zeppelin?
Zeppelin, that's it. You sort of parachute, you abseil with a rope down the side of it, and then you have to climb through this little kind of metal kind of not fence. No, it's literally on the outside. You have to make your way across. You're like balancing on it, and there's these metal like cross, like X-shaped metal things, almost like a metal fence, but up in the air on a Zeppelin. And you have to kind of move your way in and out and weave through it. Now, what you do during that bit, it looks amazing, the graphics, but all you need to do is hold forward, which makes sense. A lot of games do this, but you hold forward on the analog stick, right? And you don't have to move right or left or anything, and you literally hold forward and it moves through. And if you let go of holding forward, he literally pauses where he is. There's no like animation, he just stops where he is. Now basically what that is it's a cutscene with a play button, a play and pause button, and the play and pause button is the analog stick. So it makes you think you're moving the character, but you're not. You're just telling the video to play forward. And it's so limited, that game. But anyway, you got that. It's like, in my opinion, terrible, awful game. And it's literally like 2 or 3 hours of gameplay. It takes about 4 hours to complete most of its cutscenes. If you tally up the time you spend actually holding the controller and doing stuff, it's about 2 or 3 hours. You compare that to The Witcher, which has got probably 200, maybe more, 300 hours if you do everything. Maybe, let's say 300 hours of content. And it's awesome. Yeah. The whole thing's awesome. I've not actually played it myself, but I know how great it is. Now, both those games are exactly the same price. There's a reason I've not played it. I won't go into that, but I know it's an awesome game. But both of them are exactly the same price, right? Now, why is it right? Why would it be wrong for CD Projekt Red to come out and say, look, we've put tons of effort into our game. It's really long. Like, we don't want to charge the same amount as someone else who's thrown together this pile of crap that takes 3 hours to complete. So we're going to make it more money. If they came out, I think if a company like that came out and they were the first people to make a game more expensive, I think people would accept it. People would be fine with it. Because especially if some awful games had released that same year, because people would say, they'd see the reviews, they'd be like, right, I'm not pre-ordering it, I need to know it's good. And then the reviews would come out, they'd be slapping tens on it left and right, and people would be like, I have to buy this. And they'll think to themselves, right, earlier on this year I spent 40 quid or $60 on a terrible piece of rubbish that took me like a morning to complete, so why would I not spend double that on a game that looks 1,000 times better? And then I think if one team did that, it would break the mold, and other people would be able to do it. And because I wouldn't pay £10 for the order. I wouldn't pay £5 for the order. I'd pay like £3. I'd have bought it for £3, you know, which is less than 10% of what it cost originally. It's like 8%, 7%. You know, it's
that's another game that I invested in because I did the same thing with Destiny, and I did the same thing with the Order. I bought the collectors, the Ultimate Collectors or whatever, the one with the werewolf, and then I was like, yeah, the game was like, and then same thing with Destiny, but at the same time, like I said, with Destiny, it was mainly the developers just not listening to the community. But
yeah,
if they did ever change the price of games, all that would kind of do is just kind of reset it to where, you know, now the games are like $100 or something like that. But now, you know, the games that are, you know, really crappy can now justify, you know, $100, and all they can say is just like, hey, well, this is, you know, how much we're going to have to charge to someone trying to make a profit to break even on the game that we made and everything that went into it, you know?
yeah. I think it would either be a case of, like you say, everyone starting to charge more, in which case that would be good in a sense, because it would mean that, like you say, no one would buy a rubbish game because it costs too much. But I think if they started making it so that there was no set price, like recommended retail price for all games, I think that would benefit everyone, because the companies, firstly, right, the companies who make the great games would profit more. They'd make more money, which would mean the money was going to the right places and the money was being spent on making even more great games. So people, you know, if they have to spend 100 quid on a game, they're only going to buy it if it's awesome. So if it is awesome, it's going to get those sales, it's going to make a ton of money, and it's going to be making sure that the money that's being spent is getting into the hands of the best developers in the world, which is going to improve the sort of average quality of games. But then it would also benefit the people who make games that aren't that great, because they could make their games cheaper. So like the Order 1886, right? If games weren't all a universal price, some of them would be like $80, $100, and the Order would come along and release a game for $40 or whatever, and everyone would be like, right, I can't afford one of these big ones, so I'm going to buy one of the cheaper ones. And then they won't feel quite so hard done by if the game's not that good, because they know that they didn't spend as much on it, and it would benefit them because they'd get more sales, because in comparison, people would like be drawn to the cheaper price. They'd be like, oh, okay, you know, I'll go with this because it's nice and cheap. It doesn't really matter if it's bad. And I mean, a lot of games do that, like the new Ratchet and Clank, for instance. I mean, that maybe
It was 40.
yeah, I think it was $40, wasn't it? I mean, maybe the recommended retail price was high, I don't know, but it was like, I think I paid like 20 quid for it or something, and it's awesome. Like, it could have been full price, but they made it cheaper. It's like, why don't other companies do that? I mean, I mean, you're going to make more money in the long run anyway, because more people are going to buy it, I guess.
True, because more people just people are drawn and attracted to, you know, something that has less. It sounds kind of bad when I say it, but that's like less in value. You know, like if it's on sale, then people are more likely to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lex says, oh, Pixelate says, do I play Rocket League? Yeah, I've completed, I've done all the trophies on Rocket League. I'll play it again if there's more trophies on it, but I don't really play it sort of, I just play it freely, kind of matches online and stuff. It is a lot of fun. It is a great game. But Lex Mozzie says, but how much money are Xbox going to lose due to the fact that all their exclusives are going to be available on PC? Hey, Libbyatch as well, by the way. Hey, buddy. Yeah, you're right, Lex. Joe,
I don't think
no.
that they are.
Yeah, it's difficult. I don't know how I feel about that yet because they're trying to build a platform a bit like Steam or something. They're trying to build a platform where it's the games that make the money. In fact, in a way, it might be clever because, like we said, consoles are difficult to make money on. So they might be trying to make it so that not everyone who wants to play Xbox games needs to buy a console. So if they could, like, if Sony or Xbox could just sell their games and not need to sell consoles, then that's easier for them. It's less work. They don't lose money if the consoles have to sell for cheaper than it costs to make. But at the same time, I mean, they're obviously going to be getting the money off the back of the PC games. I think it's a bit annoying for PC gamers, the fact that it's separate to Steam. Like, they want all their stuff to be together. A bit like on PlayStation, you've got your trophies, Xbox has achievements, but then on Steam you got achievements, but then your Microsoft achievements are separate from your Steam ones, and your games don't carry across from one to the other and stuff. So I don't know how it's going to go for them, but I think it's all about the games. They're making it all about the games. I think they're taking a step back from the console market, because if you think about it, what I've been saying is, why would anyone buy an Xbox One? Why would you buy an Xbox One if you can play the games on PC? Like, if you're going to buy a console, you buy the console that's got the exclusive games on it that you want to play. So it's like, do I buy a PlayStation or Xbox? And it's like, well, I can play the Xbox games on PC, so I'll buy a PlayStation because that's the only way I can play those games. But maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's what they're aiming for in the long run.
I think in the long run, there's going to be a lot of different type of variations, because just like how you can buy different type of variations on like graphics cards and stuff that you can upgrade with the PC, I think that they're going to do different type of tiers of gaming systems, and where you'll be seeing them pumped out like in less of a lifespan.
Yeah.
And just like they're just going to give you an option like, okay, well, you can just get a basic Xbox, you can get an Xbox S or Xbox Scorpio Plus, and then just like so on and so forth, just so that way they can capitalize on every single type of market. Like, you got the people that just buy PlayStation sometimes too because it has a Blu-ray player. Now people are running to buy the Xbox One S because it's a 4K player and a video game player, whereas like a regular 4K Ultra DVD player is like, I want to say $300-400, where hey, you can get it in this Xbox One S for $299, and you can play games on top of that. That can also translate over to the PC. So you're capturing a wider audience.
Yeah, they're trying to make it. Yeah, they're trying to make a kind of brand that sort of is almost like with Apple, isn't it? Like, whatever device you've got like your music on your phone and on your iPad and your Mac and everything. It's just like a marketplace. It's not about Xbox anymore. It's about Microsoft, because I think they were huge. Like, Microsoft were maybe the biggest company in the world, but a lot of companies are sort of catching up, whatever. You got Google and stuff, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and if Sony follow up with anything similar. You right, Creek?
I think that they are.
Yeah. We're not actually playing anymore. We've just been like rambling on about games.
Nice.
He says, trick question: you never buy an Xbox.
Whoa. I would like to state for the record that I'm picking up my Xbox One S on the 2nd.
I've got an Xbox One. It's got like
Have you touched it?
It's got about 6 foot of dust on it.
That's what I thought.
It's not because it's not a good console. I just gravitate towards PlayStation because that's where my work is. That's
because it's a better console.
It is a better console, yes, but it doesn't. If it's a
this.
better console, if it's a better console, it doesn't mean that Xbox is worse. And also, better is subjective. Like, better refers to the power and everything of it. But I think the new Xbox, the Scorpio or whatever, is going to be more powerful than the new PS4. So we'll see how things shift then. But at the moment, yes, it's a more powerful console, but it depends what kind of games you like. If you prefer Halo and stuff, it depends what you've grown up with. For me, like I've had PlayStation since the first PS1, so I remember my first game, it was like Colin McRae Rally, the very first ever Colin McRae, which is now Dirt. You've got like Dirt and Dirt 3, and like, now it's become, what's it become now? Like Dirt Rally this year has just come out on PS4, isn't it? So it's been going all that time, 20 years. But I remember that was my first ever game. So I've always been PlayStation, I always will be. But
I just think I do it for the community, for the people that I play with. I have a lot of friends on PlayStation, but then I also have another side of friends that play on Xbox, and I just would like to play with just a wider variety of people.
I do like the idea of playing on Xbox, not instead of, but just because it's different. It's a change, like it's a different controller. It feels different UI. It's just like feels like something new, even though I've had it for a couple of years. But yeah, I'm not being dragged across. I haven't even got Xbox Live at the moment. But I did like when it first came out. When I first bought it, I got it partly for Forza, because there wasn't really a similar racing game on PS4, and like at the time it was probably because it was like the launch game or whatever, but it looked like, in comparison to what I'd been playing on PS4, it didn't look good. I looked fine, but like the trees and stuff on the edge of the tracks were like cardboard cutouts, they were all the same pretty much. There was no real variety, and I was playing it like, is this really next gen? Because I'd been so used to the PS4. But like I say, it's going to get better with the Scorpio. I
think that they did something big when they came out with that Xbox
backwards
Elite
compatibility.
The
Elite, right?
Yeah, the backwards compatibility plus the controller, because PlayStation is now trying to copy the Elite controller. So I think that they're doing a lot of things to like how we were talking about, just shake up the gaming community to push it towards the better. And we'll just.
I think both are going to be copying each other's ideas for the foreseeable future. I mean, that's how progress is made, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, see who can copy better with just a slight variation tweak.
Yeah, I just loved E3 this year, where Xbox were all about the hardware, because it felt like they were playing catch up. They're like, we are bringing out a better console, like it is going to be better now. And then Sony came out and they were like, they didn't even mention the console. Everyone knows, they were obviously thinking, everyone knows we've got a new console coming. We don't need to mention it because we're not playing catch up. We're just going to like steam ahead by showing the games. And they just showed game after game, and it was just like, boom, they just killed it.
They did point out something like interesting that I didn't know until I watched the video of it. PlayStation announces a lot of games, but the time that they're in development is so long, even if they actually come out and don't get canceled, is like staggering. So a lot of the games that they announce at E3 is to be announced or in development or soon to come. Whereas, Xbox, if they say that they're going to release a game, they actually do release the game.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not in development for 2 years.
There's only been like a couple games that stand out like that. And I think they've kind of made everyone think that it's always like that. It's not always like that. I think.
I can name a couple of them.
Yeah, well, you got like The Last Guardian is the big one, isn't it? That's the one that's still not out.
Last Guardian, Final Fantasy 15, Kingdom Hearts 3. Announced what else?
Final Fantasy's not exclusive to Sony, is it? That's not that's like both. That's Xbox as well, right? So
I would say so Sony has, I think it's marketed more towards Sony.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, if you're going to make that argument about like Sony have games in development for a long time and they like don't come out for years more than Xbox, then you can't really include games that are coming out on Xbox as well, because that applies to both of them, doesn't it? Like Xbox players are having to wait just as long for Final Fantasy as PlayStation players,
Whoa. Calm down. I'm not on either side. I'm pro games.
No, I know. I was just saying it's interesting to think about like exclusive Sony games, because you're right. There are some that do I mean, I'm trying to think of them. Like, Last Guardian is the only one that pops into my head, and that has been ridiculous. Like, the story of that has been for years and years. But yeah. No, I know you're not.
When it comes
I
to
know you're
stuff like with
excited.
double, no, with like double consoles, like when it's on both consoles, I never understand why one is marketed kind of at like one E3, even though it's for like multiple platforms. So I never really understood that.
I think I can answer that. I think the way it works is obviously if Sony or Microsoft pay a game developer a ton of money to have complete exclusivity, there's all different levels of exclusivity. So like obviously we're talking about third-party developers. So first-party developers like making Halo and stuff, obviously that's Microsoft because Microsoft own them or whatever. But if it's like if it's a game like, I think Insomniac Games, I think were they the ones that did, what was that, like, energy drink game, Sunset Overdrive? They did that for Xbox. Yeah. And then they usually do, I think they do the Infamous games, or is it Resistance?
Yeah, Infamous is for PlayStation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think which one's Sucker Punch, because Sucker Punch does one and Insomniac do the other. And then one does Ratchet and Clank and the other does Sly Cooper. But they basically, both of them really, Sucker Punch and Insomniac Games, they both, they're not like owned by Sony because they wouldn't have done Sunset Overdrive for Xbox if they were. So obviously they're paid by Sony to release games just on PlayStation. And then you've got some timed exclusives like Tomb Raider, because that's now coming to PS4. But Microsoft were like, look, we need to sell some units. We need a big AAA game that's not available on Sony's. So we're going to pay Crystal Dynamics or whoever it is. Pay them like not as much money because it's not like forever exclusive forever, but we'll pay them. We'll pay them a decent amount and we'll have it for a year or two. But then when it comes to like advertising or like E3 and stuff, it would be considerably less money, of course, that Sony or Microsoft would have to pay. But it's still worth them paying a company like, for instance, Activision, because Destiny is marketed to PlayStation. It's on Xbox, but it's very much marketed to PlayStation. And
exactly
the benefit Sony get for paying them for that kind of marketing exclusivity. In other words, they need to say to Xbox, look, you can have our game, but we've sold the marketing rights to Sony, so you're not allowed to advertise it on television. You're not allowed to talk about it at E3. And that way, when people see it at Christmas or whatever, parents see like Destiny and their kids are going on about this new game Destiny. They see it and they see it advertised for PlayStation, so they instinctively go out, buy a PlayStation 4 and Destiny because they don't know that it's on Xbox. They don't know anything about the console war. They're just buying their kids what they want. And it's like every time people see it on TV, it's advertised for Sony PlayStation 4. And like that totally
kind of like Call of Duty and Xbox.
Yeah, although that's PlayStation now. They've bought.
Yeah.
They've now shifted it across. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see the sales numbers, like the percentage sale, because obviously there's less Xboxes than PlayStation 4s, so there would be less copies of Destiny on Xbox. But what I mean is like the ratio of like how many people that own the console bought the game percentage-wise. Compare it from Sony to Xbox so that you could see whether the advertisement side of things actually helped and boosted their sales.
Yeah, I would say like that would be kind of interesting too, because Infinite Warfare.
What the heck is that, Creek?
Well, I had my mic on mute and I was watching a YouTube video, and turns out I have YouTube Red. And so when I turned off my phone, it never actually ended. So my bad, chat. Or stream or whatever.
Oh, no. So what? How did that turn your mic off for you? Oh, no, I don't mind. I just thought it was funny. Like, I don't know what you're watching. Is it like Ren and Stimpy or something?
Well,
yeah. Sorry, carry on, Bas.
I have to... Oh, no, it's cool. All I did was just kind of bring me back into the world that I have to catch a plane in an hour and a half.
Oh, really?
And, yeah.
All right, man.
But Like I said,
No, that's
as soon as I
interesting.
touch down, check your Patreon. Definitely gonna donate. I will continue to watch your videos whenever you post up, and just let me know the next game you're gonna be in, so I can try to enjoy it with you.
Yeah, man, we'll definitely play together. Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun talking to you as well. Someone else who's interested in the gaming industry as an industry, not just playing Call of Duty and FIFA.